All right. I have to start because we don't have too much time. Good evening to you all.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah. I want us to look at the last lecture for the term. That is measurement and data preparation. In the normally chapter 4, when you are ready to go and collect your data, there are certain things that you have to know, procedures that you have to follow. And normally, if you write your proposal and then you are ready to collect the data, you need to submit your documents, what we call the protocol. That is a research proposal. And you have to complete a form called ethical clearance form to indicate that you remember we spoke about research ethics, so that the study will not be able to violate any right of any person. So you have to go through the process by scrutinizing your document that you put together. That is the proposal and also the questionnaire or the interview guide, the instrument that you are going to use for the research. You have to attach it, and then they'll go through and see whether everything is okay. All right. Then before you can start thinking about the measurement and then the data preparation. So we're looking at the introduction. We look at concept, construct, and measurement. Then we'll look at levels of measurement, criteria for assessing measurement skills, preparing, inputting, and checking data, exploring data, and presenting the data. All right. So now, in the social and behavioral sciences, it is not unusual for a researcher to engage participants or respondent in a way that will help him or her to ascertain and describe the respondent's feelings, attitude, opinions, and evaluation in some measurement or measurable form. Okay. So we say that instead of saying it's not unusual, that means it's usual, okay? For the researcher, whoever is conducting the research, have to gather information to ascertain what is the opinions, feelings, attitude, opinions, and also evaluation in some measurable form. The process of assigning numbers to various attributes of people, objects, or concepts is known as measurement. And this is our primary concern in this lecture, okay? What is that measurement that we want to look at? Some of them will be ratios, some of them will be what? Intervals. Some of them will also be ordinal, okay? Some of them will be like what? Nominal. All these things are form of measurement. So we are going to see them one after the other, what they represent in terms of research. So now, the concept of measurement. A concept is a mental abstraction or idea formed by the perception of some phenomenon. You say, concept is a mental abstraction, is a mental thoughtfulness or idea. For example, when we say concept of education, what do we mean by education? So you have to operationalize the term education and indicate what aspect of education you are referring to. Is it formal or informal or non-formal education? Okay. So education like this is a concept. All right. Corruption is a concept. So you'll be able to determine whether, how the level of people who you are interviewing are corrupt, or otherwise if they are not corrupt. If they are not corrupt, you have to indicate by it. So these become a measurement as well as a concept. Now, so when we talk of the concept, as I said, it's like a brand awareness, brand loyalty, service quality, image risk, channel conflict, empathy, and so on. And measurement involve assigning numbers to a phenomenon according to certain rules that reflect the characteristics of the phenomenon being measured. So the phenomenon means, it can be a feature of a particular research approach that we are using. And the rules guiding this, the features or the elements that you are studying is also key in this aspect. The measurement process involves specifying the variables that serve as proxies for the concepts, that is the construct, okay? A proxy is a variable that represents a single component of a larger concept, and taken together, several proxies indicator variables and said to measure a concept. The term proxy over here is a variable, okay, that represents a single component. And when we talk of variable, we are talking about the element under study. And yesterday we look at what is independent variable and then the dependent variable. We say the independent variable stands on its own, and it relies on dependent variable to ensure that the relationship or whatever measurement you want to conduct are well stated, okay? So a proxy, that indicator of a variable can be, examination success. And then that success, you have to define what you mean by success by going through the lower marks up to the minimum and up to maximum, okay? So that becomes a proxy. So any number that you choose to represent any construct become a proxy, okay? Right. So in referring to the proxy, we have certain measurement scales. Okay, the first one that we are going to talk about is called scale. Scaling is a branch of measurement that involves the construction of an instrument that associate qualitative construct with quantitative metric units. A scale is a measurement tool that can be discrete or continuous. A discrete scale measures only direction, but continuous scales measure both direction and intensity. What are we talking about here? When we say a scale is a measurement tool that can be discrete or continuous. For example, when we say discrete, this, you can talk about value, we can talk about frequency, okay? But when it becomes continuous, then you have to define the scale. So at times we have a popular, a scale in quantitative called, Likert scale of preference. Likert scale of preference. I hope you might have heard of that terminology before. And here, this Likert scale of preference, we normally use it in questionnaire to be able to show the scale of what measurement based on the opinion of the participants or respondent. For example, when we say Likert scale of preference of 5 points, here we are referring to, for example, you want to say that whether you agree or disagree on a particular statement. So there you can say the Likert scale of preference is on 5 points. So it means that there will be 5 elements. So you have to define what does 1 stands for? What does 2 stands for? What does 3 stands for? What does 4 stands for? What about 5? So when we say Likert scale preference of 5, so we can say that the first one is what? Highly disagree. Okay? Then that's 1. Then 2, disagree. 3, become neutral. Then 4, say, agree. Then the 5th one will be strongly agree. So we have 5 scale of preference with regards to Likert scale of preference. And we use it most of the times in our questionnaire. Okay? It provides the scale in which you want to direct. And these scales will have a numerical identity. For example, 1 will be highly disagree. The second one, which is referring to, highly disagree, will be disagree. Then the 3rd level will be neutral, in between. Then the 2nd level will be, agree. Then the 5th one will be strongly agree. So strongly disagree up to strongly agree. So you have to let the readership know how you defined your scales by saying that 1 is the least and then the 5 is the highest. Okay. So you will use this in element of what? Study. Okay. And that's what we call the continuous. So in many ways, scaling remains one of the most arcane and misunderstood aspects of social research measurement. And it attempts to do one of the most difficult aspects of research, tasks that measure the abstract concepts. Okay? Now, so steps in developing skills. So first of all, definition of the concept to be measured. Okay? So the concept to be measured is probably, it can be attitude, okay, of, students' attitude towards, the use of technology in higher educational institutions, okay? So it is students' attitude towards, technology in higher educational institutions. So here you have to define what you are going to use to measure this attitude of students' usage of technology in tertiary education. Okay, so there will be statements that will be posed, and you either have to agree or disagree or strongly disagree on the statement. Okay, so here we call the definition of the concept to be measured, then identification of the component of the concept. So what are the identification of the component? We are talking about technology, usage, okay? Attitude towards technology usage in higher educational institutions. A case study of Ghana Communication Technology University. So here you try to look at what are the things they will be measuring, okay? And that's what we call specification of a sample and observable measurement items to represent the component. Then selection of the appropriate scales to measure the items. That is what I'm talking about. 1, highly or strongly disagree. 2, disagree. 3, neutral. 4, highly, agree. Then 5 will be strongly agree. Okay. So, which means that anybody who take 5 is talking about what? The issue being very rigorous. But anybody going for the lower version of what you didn't agree on will talk about 1, 2, and then the 3 become a neutral in between the 4 and 5 and 2 and 1. Okay. Then you administer the scale to the sample and assess respondent understanding. Then you revise the scales as needed. If you feel that the scale is skewed towards one particular area and you need diversity, then you can be able to revise it by changing the scale. Okay. Then you can then move on with your study. Now, there are 4 elements or 4 levels of measurement. The first one is the nominal. The second one is ordinal. And then the third one is interval. Then the last but not the least is ratio. So when we talk of nominal, it uses numbers as labels to identify and classify objects, individuals, or events. Okay? They identify individuals, job titles, or positions, brand, stores, among others. Not really a scale because it does not scale objects along any dimension. It simply labels objects. So here we say nominal uses numbers as labels. Okay. So here, let's look at some example. Are you happy with the services at the Hotel X? The question is, the answer is whether yes or no. So here, you realize that the coding will be done in such a way that 1 will take yes, no will take what? 2. Now, with nominal scale, it's not limited to 2 categories. We may measure occupation with nominal scale using the categories. So you either tick if you are a teacher, if you are a doctor, if you are a lawyer, if you are others, you tick and then you provide the profession that you are referring to. So with this aspect of, labels to identify the classified object, so the teacher can be measured based on the frequency of people who say the teacher, and then the doctor vis-a-vis the lawyer and others as well. Okay, so nominal, ordinal, interval, ratio, and we are on nominal, showing that the labels to identify and classify objects, individual or events. Okay. Then when we come to ordinal is a ranking. It's a ranking scale. It places objects into predetermined categories. That is ranked, ordered according to some criterion. It enables the researcher to determine if an object is more or less of characteristics than some other objects. But there is no information regarding the differences, that is interval between points on the scale. For example, please rank the following attributes of Hotel X from 1 to 4, with 4 being the most important. So this is a Likert scale of 4 points. So we come to food quality. Okay. So what is the food quality there? So here we should have actually defined other attributes. Like if 1 stands for, we are ranking, and then we say that you should rank the hotel from 1 to 4. And then we have food quality. If the food quality is good, then we put the 4 over there. If it is not good, it is poor, then here you have to put 1 over there. Likewise, atmosphere, you have to define whether it's cold or not cold. Okay. Then prices, employees. So here, how do you rank the rest? Like the atmosphere, prices, and then employees. So you ask yourself, where do I place each one of them? What number will I assign to any one of them? Then when it comes to interval scale, an interval scale uses numbers to rate objects or events so that the distances between the numbers are equal. Thus, differences between points on the scale can be interpreted and compared meaningfully. An interval scale has all the qualities of nominal and ordinal scales, plus the differences between the scale points is considered to be equal. So here we are looking at the differences, the interval, 50 degrees Celsius against 10 degrees Celsius. The difference is 30, okay? So the ability to give intervals is you are giving what is the difference between 10 and that of 80. So interval scale has all the qualities of nominal and ordinal scales, plus the differences between each scale is considered to be equal. So let's look at the example. A 10-degree difference on a Fahrenheit scale have the same meaning anywhere along the scale. So we said, but we can say that 80 degrees is twice as hot as 40. Then the ratio. The ratio scale provides the highest level of measurement. Consider the question. How many people are there in your household? A response of 1 to the question can only be interpreted in one way, namely 1 person in the household. On the other way, namely only 1 person in the household. On the other way hand, if we compare 2 responses, that is response 2 with response of 4, we can conclude that the numbers in the households are 2 and 4 respectively. Further, we can state that the first household is smaller than the second household by 2 people. So finally, we may compute the ratio as 4/2, which is equal to 2. So you see that the denominator becomes, the number that you've added into the existing number, that is 2 by 2 is 4. But here we have 4 items, so we want to state over there that the response of 2 and against that of 4. So the household are 2 and 4 respectively. So for that matter, the difference there is 2. So finally, we compute the ratio 4/2 is equal to 2 and conclude that the second household is twice the first, because you remember that we are even dealing with even numbers. And this is twice as the original, or the original scales that have been given. Now, with the metric scales, we have summated rating, we have numerical, we have semantic differential, we have graphic ratings, we have metric scales, that is categorical, rank order, sorting, constant sum, and pair comparison. Okay, so here we are dealing with types of scales. Okay, we have, for example, the metric scales is talking about summated rating from one end to another. Okay, the rating. You know, we talked about the rating some few minutes ago too. Then numerical. Then we talk about semantics. We talk about graphic ratings. Then we have the non-metric one also. That is talking about what? Categorical, rank order, scores. Sorting, constant sum, and pair comparison. We'll be looking into this into details. Now, let's look at this. Summated rating scale. The final score for the respondent on the scale is the sum of their ratings for all the items. This is why this is sometimes called summated, because it's sum. There could be a several statement that relates to a single concept, such as opinion about a company or a product. When you sum up the scales for all the statements, it is referred to as summated rating scale. When you use the scale individually, it is referred to as a Likert scale. You remember I told you about the Likert scale of what? Preference. So Italian restaurant has a wide variety of menu choices. So we have strongly agree, disagree, we have disagree, neither agree, that's neutral, agree and strongly agree. So this is Likert scale of preference on 5 points, okay? So strongly disagree. So you have to let those who are going to complete the form for you to know that when they are referring to the one there, it means strongly disagree. And 2 is a disagree, 3 is neutral or neither agree or disagree. Then the 4th one is agree, and 5th one is strongly disagree. Okay, strongly agree. So the 5 give us the highest point. So the more the people pick 5, will give us a lot of numbers for 5, which shows the frequency of the 5. And it also means something. Okay, the interpretation will come in. It depends on the subject matter that you are dealing, and whoever is completing the form for you. Okay, so now with the numerical scale, this scale has a number rather than verbal description as a response option. Using a 10-point scale where 1 is not all important and 10 is very important. So how important is dash in your decision to do business with a particular vendor? Okay, so here we are using 10-point scale. And then if in case you use 10 point, you need to define, okay, what is the least and what is the highest, okay? So 1 is not all that important and 10 is very important. So 10 is on the highest level. In other way around, you can also define it by starting from the beginning. Like instead of the 10, you start from the 1. That shows that the 1 is the most important or very important. Okay. So here, using 10-point scale, where 1 is not all important and 10 is very important, how important in your decision, do business with a particular vendor. So here you have to select the scale in which you want to, 1 up to 10. So if you are picking 10, 9, 8, 7, even 6, you are rating it very high because that is the most or very important. But when you come to the other way, where you show 1 is not all important. So anybody who pick 1 to 4, and anybody who pick 10 to 6, or even 5, you realize that the highest one takes the most, point. The same thing applies if you are designing your questionnaire. You need to make sure that you define your skills very well. Okay. Right. So talking about semantic differential scale, here it is another approach to measuring attitudes. It uses 5 or 7 point scales, depending on the level of precision desired and the education level of the target population. The distinguishing feature of this is that it uses bipolar endpoint with the intermediate point typically numbered. The end points are usually chosen to describe individuals, objects or events with opposite adjectives or adverbs. So, for example, courteous. Okay, my supervisor is courteous. So after the courteous, what comes between that one and the discourteous? So here, courteous will mean the highest point that we are looking for. Likewise, when we talk of friendly, we are talking about not friendly, somehow friendly, and then we come to the higher. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 scale of preference. You have to declare your understanding of the issue. Then helpful, how helpful is it? That one is also linked. And then the bipolar, the last N is unhelpful, which is the direct opposite of what? Helpful. Okay, then supportive, the other side is hostile. Competent is incompetent. Honest, it becomes dishonest or dubious. Enthusiastic, it becomes unenthusiastic. So within the levels, you have to give what you are going to use to describe it based on the level 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Likewise, when we have the graphic ratings, okay, so it is one that provides measurement on the continuum in the form of line, which anchors what that are numbered and named. The respondent give their opinion by placing a mark on the line. Sometimes the midpoint is labeled and other times it is not. On a scale from 0 to 10, how would you rate the atmosphere of Samuel's Greek Cuisine restaurant? Indicate by placing X in the appropriate place on the line. So here you can see that from 0 to 4 is giving you as a poor side. Then from 5 becomes a neutral. Then 6, 7, 8. If you pick 10, 9, 8, and 9, 10 is excellent, depending on the the rating or the grade point. For example, you know that in your class now, if you want to score A, you have to score like 80 marks. Either to under Kwame Nkrumah University, we're using 70, but we change it to our own, which means that before you can score A, you need to have higher marks. Okay, so excellent, 10, 9. So any results that will come, if a lot of people are saying poor, 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 for example, they want to rate, how do you call it, Nana Akufo-Addo's government, okay? Then they said that put, X on the point on this, continuum. That is from poor to excellent, and 5 becomes okay. So if majority of the members have chosen 1 up to 4, it is the other way around. But if anybody choose from 5 up to 9, it means it's at the higher side. So all these things are used to determine the opinion or perception of people. Okay. Now, there is another form also called categorical. It is normally measured opinion scale. Hey, sorry. Hello. Do you have a class?
No, Prof.
Do you have a class?
No, Prof. No.
Okay, because I want to finish with you with this one. That's what I'm asking. So when we are talking about categorical, we normally measure the opinion scale that has 2 or more responses categories. When there are more categories, the researcher can be more precise in measuring a particular concept. It is often used to measure categories as age, gender, or education. So let's look at another concept over here. How satisfied are you with your current job? So very satisfied, somehow satisfied, neither satisfied or dissatisfied. That is neutral. Somehow dissatisfied and very dissatisfied. But here, you need to let the respondent know how you measure very satisfied. Is it 1 or it is 5? Okay, so always remember when you are designing your instrument, you need to actually give how, you want them to rate the scale. And the categorical one is showing the job description or the current job. So very satisfied. If that is 1, that means that the 1 is the highest. But if the very satisfied is 5, then it means that that one is highest. Then very dissatisfied is showing that the person is not even, it is actually opposite of very satisfied. And then somehow satisfied is opposite of somehow dissatisfied. And the neutral is always in the middle. Okay. Now, another categorical, concept. How interested are you in learning more about the benefits that are offered with this health plan? How interested are you in learning more about the benefits that are offered with this health plan? So very interested become, 5, or depending on the Likert scale of preference. So here you can see that it's only 3 points. Very interested can be 3. Somehow interested would be 2. Then not very satisfied. Not very interested would be 3. So the Likert scale will tell you how you'll be able to put your point there. Then rank order. Please rank the 5 attributes listed below on a scale from 1, that is the most important, to 5, the least important, in searching for a job. So searching for a job is a concept. So here you put the job attributes. So how do you rate pay? Do you rate it as very important, so it is 1? How about benefits? How about co-workers? Flexible schedule of work hours and working conditions. So here you rank it based on, the order in which you feel that is important to you. It will vary from one person to another. Whilst you may rate pay as 1 as the most important, somebody will rate benefit as most important. Okay? Someone can also decide to say that we are looking at working conditions. So he's interested in working conditions. So that is 1. Before they can even think about the pay. So with all this rank and order, it varies from one person to another. And then the more you put it together, the more you'll be able to gather them and then make your analysis. So with sorting, this type of scaling approach has responded to indicate their beliefs or opinion by arranging objects, items, on the basis of perceived similarity, preference, or some other attributes. Okay, so here you are going to sort it out by looking at the items and then decide which one is what? Perceived similarity, preference, or some other attribute. So you sort them according to your preference. Okay. Now, we also have something we call constant sum. Okay. So please allocate 100 points across the following 4 attributes to indicate their relative importance. So you've been given 100. Okay. So how do you rate on-time delivery, price, tracking capabilities, invoice accuracy, and sum? How do you rate them? So the attributes will go with the score that you give from 0 to 100. Okay. So that becomes like a constance, a number that have been given to you. Then we also have what we call the pair comparison. Okay. A pair comparison, for example, pair 1 will look at food quality, and then 1 will also look at it from atmosphere level. Pair 2 will look at food quality and prices. Pair 3 will look at food quality and service. And pair 4 will look at food quality and cleanliness. And then 5 will look at food, atmosphere with prices, atmosphere with service, and atmosphere with cleanliness. So the pair, normally we use it, as I've told you yesterday, between the independent and that of what? Dependent variables. Okay? So you pair the two, and that is where you proceed your hypothesis to. There is no relationship of food quality and that of services, or there is a relationship between food quality and service. So you are pairing the two to make your comparison. Okay. All these things comes in your design of the instrument. That is the questionnaire. Okay. Then measurement scale. We have, these are validity, the accuracy of the measurement scale, and reliability. It is the degree on which assessment tool produce stable and consistent results. So validity, talking about the accuracy of the measurement of the scale. And then reliability is that the instrument that you design, how will it be consistent with regards to all other, research that you conduct. This instrument, when you design it, can measure, consistency in the results. But the validity, we talk about the accuracy of the measurement scale, okay? So a survey instrument is considered reliable if its repeated application result is consistent scores. This is contingent upon the definition of the concepts being unchanged from application to application, okay? What it means over here is that if you are designing an instrument, the way you define your concepts, remember definition of terms, those are all the same thing as us. Definition of concepts, okay? Job satisfaction, okay? Performance. They are all showing that if you define it across board and use that instrument anywhere, they all have to have the same results based on application. It can either be low or high depending on the perception of the people. So any study that we conduct to know the opinion of the people, we call it perception sort survey, okay? So to be reliable as a scale, the question must be answered by the respondent consistently in a manner that is highly correlated. And that is where the correlation comes in the research component. So there are three types of reliability tests. The retest reliability. Then we have alternative forms of reliability, and then internal consistency reliability. How about the first one, the retest reliability? It's obtained through repeated measurement of the same respondent or a group of respondents using the same measurement device under similar conditions. Results are compared to determine how similar they are. If they are similar, typically measured by correlation coefficient, we say that they have high retest reliability. What it simply means is that when you test your instrument, the way you design the scale, the rank, and everything, and you want to show whether the results is reliable, whether it can measure the same thing in any environment that they put this instrument. So you do what we call retest reliability, and these can be found in the statistical package like SPSS. So you run the test and retest reliability, and it will give you, a degree of high reliability. And that will show that the correlation coefficient is very high, okay? Now, what are the problems? The first time respondents take the test may influence their response. The second time they take it. Also, situational factors such as how one feels on a particular day may influence how respondents answer the questions. And something may change in the time between repeated usage of the test. So what it means over here is that if you are doing the retest, you want to ensure the reliability. There are certain factors that can, be considered. For example, it will depend on the mood of the person, and also situation in which you find a person and then you ask this question. Again, one time he may answer it differently, another time he can also decide to answer it differently, depending on the feeling of the person, okay? Or how the person perceived that thing at that particular moment. So this is something that can be used to explain that there is some element with regards to retest and then to show the reliability of the study. Okay. How about the test of reliability test, the alternative forms? Alternative form reliability can be used to reduce some of the above problems. To assess this type of reliability, the researcher developed two equivalent forms of the construct. The same respondent are measured at two different times using equivalent alternative constructs. The measure of reliability is correlation between responses to two versions of the construct. So here you try to get alternative without using the same, how do you call it? Test. So you use two different types of what? Alternative constructs. Okay. This can mean, for example, where you indicate your null hypothesis and alternate hypothesis. The null hypothesis is where you say that there is no relationship between the variables. And then the alternate is that you show the relationship between, there is a relationship between what? The two variables. Okay. So with these, you are giving what we call alternative forms of test reliability. All right. And we normally do that when we posit our hypothesis.
Prof, please, your mic is off.
Good. Okay. The types of, we talk about internal consistency, okay, which is the third aspect apart from the retest. We talk about the alternate forms. This type of reliability is used to assess summated scale where several statements are summed to form a total score for a construct. There are two types of internal reliability tests. The first one is a split half reliability. To determine the split half reliability, the researcher divides the scale items in half and correlates the two sets of items. A high correlation between the two halves indicates high reliability. And then when we get the coefficient, the second one is talking about the coefficient of alpha, okay? This also refers to a Cronbach alpha. This is also another calculation that is determined by SPSS. We call it Cronbach alpha. And this will show, the numerical strength of these, constructs, showing the reliability. So coefficient of alpha also refers to a Cronbach alpha. To obtain the coefficient of alpha, you calculate the average of all possible combination of split halves. Coefficient alpha ranges from 0 to 1. So we use statistical package to compute the coefficients of alpha. The statistical package is the SPSS that I'm talking about. This coefficient of alpha is built into it. Likewise, the split half reliability is also built up on it. We normally use the second one, coefficient alpha, Cronbach alpha, to determine the internal consistency, to say that the instrument that we design will measure, any form of, situation within the context of that research. It can be used in Nigeria, it can be used in Ghana, it can be used in what? Sierra Leone, provided the ranges between, 0.006. It means that the Cronbach alpha is, reliable. But this, as I've said, can only be measured by SPSS, okay? Now, so after we talk about, so reliability, as you know, is talking about how reliable that instrument that you design that can measure any form of, situation without compromising the results. But so if you are doing your research and your internal consistency, it is not showing, it means that that instrument that you designed will not be able to measure, in any other situation. It can only be a particular situation. So we can say that there is a problem with your reliability, okay? Now, when it comes to validity, we said that is the extent of which the construct measures what is supposed to measure. So a construct with perfect validity contains no measurement error. An easy measure of validity would be to compare observed measurement with the true measurement. The problem is we very seldom know the true measure. To assess measurements reliability, we use one or more of the following approaches: content validity, construct validity. Content validity talks about the content of that particular instrument, what is trying to measure. The construct is what type of construct are you measuring? When, for example, performance is a construct. What are you measuring in that performance? That is why it is very important for you to define what you mean by performance. Is it profitability? Is it the well-being? All these things is very important. Then criterion validity and the phase validity. The phase validity is just showing that the measurement that you put together by phase value, it is measuring what is supposed to be. So we normally look at the construct validity and also the content validity when we are measuring, at the very high level of, whatever we are doing. The content validity is based on the extent to which a measurement reflects the specific intended domain of content, okay? The extent, okay, to which measurement reflects to specific intended domain. The content validity is illustrated using the following example. Researchers aim to study mathematical learnings and create a survey to test for mathematical skills. If the researchers only tested the multiplication and then drew the conclusion from the survey, their study will not show content validity because it excludes other mathematical functions like addition, okay, like division, but you only look at what? Only one aspect of it, that is what? Multiplication. So it will have problem with what? Content validity, okay? Then how about construct validity? It seeks agreement between theoretical concept and specific measurement device or procedure. The theory is used to explain why the scale works and how the results or its application can be interpreted. You remember I told you about what theory does. Theories are used in research to be able to determine whether whatever you stated there in terms of the theory relates to the study that you've conducted. So with this, it is always important to be able to determine that you have the exact, issue that you are measuring. So here we have the theory is used to explain why the scale works and how the results of its application can be interpreted. To assess construct validity, two checks are performed. The checks are convergent and the discriminant validity. Convergent validity is the extent which the construct is positively correlated with other measures of the same construct. And these can only be verified through the SPSS if you run the convergent validity score, okay? Then the discriminant validity is the extent which the construct does not correlate with other measures that are different from it. So the convergence is talking about what? The positive correlation of other measures, but the discriminant is telling you that it does not positively relate. It shows a sort of negative, and all these things will come within the context of what? Then the criterion validity assess whether the construct performed expected relative to other variables identified as meaningful criteria. For example, theory suggests employees are highly committed to a company would exhibit high job satisfaction. Thus, correlations between measures of employee commitment and job satisfaction should be positive and significant. If this is so, then we have to establish the criterion validity for our construct. But if it doesn't show that it's highly committed, a company would does not exhibit high job satisfaction, then the criterion validity cannot be established. So to establish criterion validity, we need to show that the scores obtained from the application of the scale being validated are able to predict scores obtained on the theoretically identified dependent variables, refers to as criterion variable. One or both of two types of criterion validity checks can be performed. These checks are referred to as concurrent and then predictive validity. Predictive, yesterday, I told you that it's something that you can use to predict any occurrence. The concurrent is showing that with the two measurements that we use, qualitative, quantitative, they are all arriving at what? The same results. And that also hinges on the form of what? The different research approaches that you use within the context of the research. Then the phase validity, this is concerned with how a measure or procedure appears. Does it mean like a reasonable way to gain the information the researchers are attempting to obtain? Does it seem well designed? Does it seem as though it will work reliably? Unlike content validity, the phase validity does not depend on established theories for support. So as we said, the phase validity that you don't run any tests to determine that within the SPSS, okay? The content validity, you have to, the construct, convergent, discriminant, all of them you need to, depend on the calculation that you do within the SPSS. Then we have true score theory and measurement error. when discussing the statistical properties of an exams, one may hear the term error or measurement error used by the psychometricians. I mean, those people who do a lot of statistics. Error can be considered information contributing to a person's exam score beyond the person's true or actual ability. So from computational and classical test theory perspective, error is, for example, we talk about the error that you obtain from the HOT, the original test minus the HOT, the actual ability, okay? So observe minus the true one, and that will give you, I mean, the score, whether there is an error. Because no matter how research we do, there are certain errors. That is why yesterday I was telling you about when you are selecting the sample size, we look at what? The confidence level, the error. That will say that, okay, they will ask you what type of confidence level did you choose when you are dealing with your sample size. If it is 0.5, I mean, it means that about 5% error. If it's 1, it means you are referring to what? 1% error that comes from it. So in research, we determine the error level, okay? Now, the observed score is the actual score on the exam, and the true score is the person's actual ability. Error is the difference between the observed and the true scores. Error can be random or systematic. You remember systematic and then the random, you can pick any out, or systematically you have done, how do you call it? The sampling, and then they detect that there is an error. So error can be that of what? Random or systematic. According to Kruker and Algina, 1986, Introduction to Classical and Modern Test Theory, random error typically occurs during one administration. This may include guessing, misreading a question, or a candidate not feeling well. Okay, so this can come in as an error when you are administering your questionnaire. So in the instance of random error, the error will not likely occur during subsequent administration. It can happen even during that's why in quantitative, we request that you do pilot or pre-test so that it can eradicate this type of errors, okay? Then systematic errors are typically attributes to person or the exam that will occur across administrations. These errors typically do not have much to do with the content being measured. An example could be an exhaustive item with excess verbiage that has simple math problem, and the simple math problem is what is intended to be measured, not the candidate's ability to sort through this verbiage. So at times, we test students to ascertain their understanding of a particular issue or a particular subject matter that you tested them on, okay? So at times, you realize that the intention of the person, okay, is not known unless you actually administer the test or the exams, okay? And if the person be able to, outweigh all the challenges that we have, and then determine, and by passing the exam on the higher level, then we actually give the instance of what? The error being minimized. In fact, that is why when you are testing students, you don't use only one criteria. You test them based on different level. That is why I said you need to, come up with a proposal. You need to also, we did the test also in class. So with this, I'll be able to measure your how do you call it? The error with the original and then the other one, the observed one. So I'll compare the two and see how best can I help for you to go through the exams. That is why I was telling you that you need to take part in all the exams. But here we are, if you didn't take part in the class test, it will be very difficult. That means that there will be only one opportunity that will be left. That is the proposal that you are going to put up. And that one, there is no guarantee to show that your ability or your intelligence level can be measured based on that. So that is why we do some of these things. So why is measuring error important? Reliability, theoretically speaking, is the relationship that's correlation between a person's score on parallel equivalent forms. As more error is introduced into observed score, the lower the reliability will be as measurement error is decreased. Reliability is increased. With that said, administering two forms of an exam to one candidate to calculate reliability is not practical. Okay? It's not practical. Because of what? Because the two exams have different components or different intention. All right? So we give more opportunities for students. That is why exam is not only determined by examination, by class tests. That's what we call continual assessment, so that you can be able to build up the grade for the students. Okay? Now, because creating perfectly parallel exams forms and administering forms for a given candidate is not practical, we estimate reliability using a single form methodology. That is coefficient alpha. It is variation and being popular reliability estimate used for single exam form administration. Curtin in 1958, in Kruker and Algina 1986, Introduction to Classical and Modern Test Theory discusses how a single form reliability estimate is appropriate. A reliability estimate should be a relationship between true score variance to observed score variance. Okay. Why is all of this important? That's the validity. If systematic errors occur, there is a threat to validity of the exam program. Having an exam that measures something other than what is intended to will result in inaccurate exam results and inappropriate score interpretation. This will be considered a major flaw in the program. That is why it is very important to do what? To measure the validity as well. Now, developing certification tests requires many steps. It is these steps that reduces probability of systematic error. These include defining the content of the exams, that is job analysis, writing, reviewing items with multiple and separate SMEs, conducting standard setting, and equating studies, reviewing items and exam form statistics, and conducting proper scoring procedures. It is very important that organizations develop certification exams using best practices to avoid threats from errors. Okay? So that is why when you are conducting research, I made mention earlier on that it's very important to measure your instrument. If you design questionnaire, you need to measure it to see whether it is answering what is intended. How do you know that? If you administer the questionnaire, the way the people answer the questions, if there's any form of ambiguity, you see that they'll be answering it differently. Then you come back now and then redefine it to measure what you intend to measure. Else, there'll be a lot of errors in your instrument, and then the results cannot be reliable or validated. Okay. So now, data preparation and analysis. As part of preparing your data for analysis, the following should be considered. That is, if you did not consider them before obtaining the data. Type of data, level of numerical measurement. So what type of data do you have? What are you measuring? Okay. Format in which the data will be input and the data analysis software. And normally when you are using SPSS, you need to code all your data into it. If it is, for example, you are looking at demographic characteristics like age, sex, occupation, educational level, you code them very well. If it is one, you are talking about male, one, female, two. This is normally binary. Then if it's educational level, one is what? Higher education up to, let's say, doctoral level. Then two, up to the master's level. Three, first degree. Then the fourth one will be diploma. So anybody who chooses, higher university, PhD level will take one in that order. So you format your data to make sure that the analysis that you are going to do will be very accurate. Then the impact of the coding on the subsequent analysis for different types, data types, you need to make sure that you code them very well. Then the need to weight cases. At times, some of them, you have to give it weight. You have to add weight to it to be able to gather, inferential statistics that you want to make. The methods you intend to use to check the data for errors are also very important. How about data entry? Invariably, all analysis software accept data table format called data metrics. Some primary data collection methods such as copy-cutting and online questionnaire can automatically enter this and save data in this format. It's a format in which we actually save the data. Some secondary data accessed from CD-ROM can also be saved in this format without the need to retype, okay? For other data collection method, you will have to enter the data manually in the data matrix form. So you pick the questionnaire. So questionnaire should have serial numbers. So serial number 001, then you pick it, then you enter all. It's very laborious. There are some data entry experts. They can do it for you. So when we conduct research like this, we give it to data entry expert to enter the data for us before we analyze it in the statistical instrument. SPSS, Stata, or Excel can be used. So the data entry is when you code and enter all the data, okay? So now questionnaire design and pre-testings of a questionnaire. Typically, data metrics have rows and columns. Each column represents separate variable, and each row contains variable for an individual case. So case 1, case 2, case 3. The ID is a serial number. So the first one is you have a case 1, you pick ID 1, then you see that we have a variable age, we have 27, okay? Then we come to variable 2, which is gender, we have 1. Then variable 3, level of education, we have 2. Then the variable 4 is the marital status, we have 1, okay? Then the case, so here, if you actually label it very well, The ID case 1 is showing that either the person is what? A male, 1. Okay. Then the age category is talking about 27. When you categorize it, or you make it what? On its own. Then variable 3, that's the level of education that I told you about. Then the marital status, if it is married 1, I'm married 2, divorced 3, and that's order. This is how the whole thing is coded as you go along. So coding, invariably, all data should be recorded using codes. This enables quick data entry. It also makes subsequent analysis, in particular those require recoding of data to create new variables. The scheme for coding is called codebook. So how do you code? Okay, for example, if you are talking about sex, is sex, X-E-X. It doesn't mean having sex, it means what? People use gender, but gender is not the accurate term. Gender is a social construct. It is what the role of a man and a woman. So we normally use sex, okay? So these will have a code. How you code it must be determined by your code book, okay? So coding quantifiable data, the actual numbers are often used. Some numbers can be grouped or combined to form new variable through the process called recoding. For example, if you ask a question and you say others, and then you try to, people answer it by giving you different, you have to come and what? Recode it. That is why in quantitative study, we advise that you use close-ended, don't use open-ended. If you use open-ended, you are opening yourself for a lot of work. Because when you use open, the person, somebody can say, for example, what type of job do you do? Okay, you didn't classify them, and then you make it open, like as if you are doing qualitative type of what? Instrument. Somebody can say that I'm a clerical agent. Somebody can say I'm a banker. So you now have to sit down now and see how you code or recode all this. But if you classify them, it will be easier for you. It will be easier for you to be able to code and then enter your data as you go along, okay? That is why we recommend highly that if you are doing quantitative, use close-ended questions with alternative responses, okay? So that it will not have to be recode everything. So coding categorical data. Existing code may be used on new scheme of code design. Coding of categorical data can be done during the data collection or after data collection. Coding at data collection occurs when there is a limited range of well-established categories in which the data can be placed. Coding after data collection is necessary when you are unclear of likely responses or there are large number of possible responses in the coding scheme. Okay, so others, then you allow the person to decide. You have a lot of challenges like this. Okay. Now, coding missing data. At times, there will be a missing data in the sense that when you are doing, some people may not answer certain questions. Okay. So if we do that, it will be what we call missing data. So each variable for each case in your data set should have a code, even if no data have been collected. A missing data code is used to indicate why data are missing. For 4 main reasons for missing data could be data not required from respondent, probably as a result of a skip. At times, certain questions you can say skip if it's not related to you, or if it's not appropriate, or if it's not applicable, okay? Then non-response, they can decide not to answer it at all. then the response did not know the answer or did not know have any option. That's another reason why there'll be a missing. Or the response may have missed a question by mistake, or the responded answer may be unclear. So data entry. Once your data have been coded, you can begin to enter them into the computer. Remember to give a data collection form identifiable which should tally with what is recorded on the PC. It is essential you take considerable care to ensure that your data is entered correctly. Remember that garbage in, garbage out. Now, when you are done, we call something data cleaning. No matter how careful you code and subsequently enter the data, there will also be a room for some errors. So it is therefore extremely important you check your data for errors. Do so by looking for illegitimate codes, illogical relationships. Check that rules in filter questions are followed. Look out for outliers, a respondent observation that has the one or more values that are distinctly different from values of other responses. So you look out for all these to clean your data, to make sure that your data is clean. Now, exploring and presenting the data. Once the data have been entered and checked for errors, you are ready to start your analysis. At this stage, exploratory data analysis is useful. This approach emphasizes the use of diagrams to explore and understand your data, emphasizing the importance of using your data to guide your choices of analysis and techniques. And normally at times we start from frequencies. Okay, we try to look at frequencies, talking about how many males, how many females, how many educated, what type of educational level. All these things are part of it. Okay, so it is best to begin exploratory analysis by looking at individual variables and their components. The aspects you need to consider should be guided by your research questions and objectives are likely to include specific values, highest and lowest value, trends over time, proportion, distributions, okay? So you look at specific values, you look at what is the highest, what is lowest, what is the trend over time. You look at the figures and see whether the trends is uniform or there is what? Fluctuations in terms of higher and lower. How about proportion? And how about distribution? All these things are things that you need to watch out for. In addition to the above, you could also begin to look at conjunctions, the point where values of two or more variables intersect. Okay, the totals, interdependencies, and relationship. When you run correlations, you'll see all these things coming out very clear. Then you also describe data by using certain statistics. You can describe what we call the central tendency. The mean is like average, okay? The median, that means the middle point of the data sets. Then the mode, which one occur frequently. The frequency, that is a mode. If the number that appear most is a mode. Then describe the dispersion in terms of what? Interquartile range, standard deviation, variance, coefficient of variation, index numbers, skewness, and kurtosis. Skewness is how close is the figure close to each other when you look at it on the graph. Did you skew? And then how did they skew? Or there is a discrete, or they are dispersed. All these things are type of. Then you look at the interquartile in terms of any percentage. How do even the standard deviation comes in? What is the deviation based on the standard average number that we have? What about the variance? What is the difference in it? How about the coefficient of the variations? How do you interpret that in terms of the work that we are doing? In brief, I mean, that is how you'll be able to actually analyze your data, and by making sure that you get the answers to your statistics as you move along. Right. So this actually should have been done after you know how to design your questionnaire. Okay. But the designing questionnaire should be something that will come out from your research questions, and what type of questions are you going to answer. And then at times also, it is very important to know that, as I've said, you can adapt. You can pick some of the existing questionnaire and use your own, measurement for it. Or you can also design it afresh. You can also adopt. There are also existing, questionnaires available that you can adopt and use accordingly. So all these things are available for you for the questionnaire design. And then you can do your measurement like a scale of preference. Either you are doing, a ratio, you are doing intervals, or you are trying to also show the variations, the differences between, or you give it one time, a rank, or you score as you go along. Good. Any question? Yeah, I told you yesterday, I'm actually loading up all this thing for you. You'll get it, this week. Before you go and write the exams. There are many, the data sets. But what I've done is I will send you all that I've done so far, probably tomorrow, and then I'll continue with the rest and let you have it so that you can have the notes. You have the slides already, then the, how do you call it? The audio. Then I will also promise you that I'll get to know the type of questions that have been set and then get back to you. I've not got in touch with the module leader yet. I'll convey that message through the WhatsApp message as soon as I get the information as well. So all that you have to do is read. There will not be any questions that you can answer under this, dispensation, what we went through. But my issue with you is that some of you are not reading. Some of you are on top of issues, because when I started marking the exam, some of you score. Almost all of the answers are correct. You know yourselves, okay? But some also, you couldn't do much because you don't understand what we are talking about, okay? So please, for you not to come back and rewrite these exams, just go, because if you do on average on the exams, because of the test and then the, the proposal, you'll be able to get through. Because normally I used to be flexible with the continual assessment with my students. When they don't do well in the exams, I do help them to go through. So please help me, let me help you. You need to work very hard and make sure that you learn go through all the slides, you have all of them, and then make sure you prepare very well for the exams. Any question? Okay, it seems you don't have a question. Yes, Christiana.
Please, you said we were going to, yes, sir. Please, you said we were going to submit the proposal tomorrow, but we've still not gotten the
I'll send you the link.
this.
I'll send you the link.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll send you the link.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Do you have access to the platform, the Moodle platform?
Sir, okay, because most of the time the lecturers don't tell us whether they've sent something there. So for me, I haven't accessed it this semester. I haven't tried it.
Okay, if in case I set it up and you don't have it, I'll send you the link. Then you get in touch with Center for Online Learning and Teaching so that they can put you through. I'll find out from the gentleman.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. The problem that we had is that we had an officer who was working on it have been suspended. So we had challenges, and it's only one person now working over there. That is why most of the slides are delayed in terms of putting it on the platform and also the videos. So I have to do it myself. Okay. So
okay, Prof.
I will let you have it, the link. As early as I will look at it this evening and then let you have it. And please submit Word version. I'll put all the instructions over there. Don't put anything PDF. If you put anything PDF, it will not be marked. So please, Word, MS Word, because I'm going to check plagiarism. Okay, if you go and copy anything, it will show. And anything be above 20% similarity index is not good. And it means that you fail. So please check. When you do, I'll give you ample time for you. If in case the similarity index is high, download it, the similarity, and compare it with the one that you originally submitted, and rework on it and resubmit again. Okay? So take note
Okay,
of.
Prof.
All right. So I wish you all the best, and then we'll be communicating as we go along. Okay?
Okay, Prof.
All right.
Prof, your paper is the first paper, so